Fewer travelers and commuters during the pandemic have meant less gridlock on highways and shorter security lines at airports this holiday. But experts say behind the scenes, key parts of the nation's infrastructure system are at a breaking point. So tonight in our series, America in Transition, we look at the cost of years of neglect of our roads and bridges, airports, and electrical grid, and what President-elect Biden is promising to do in his first 100 days. Here's Devin Dwyer.
On the campaign trail, it's been a tantalizing promise for years.
Let's build wireless networks into rural communities so everybody can tap into world markets. Let's put construction workers back to work.
A $1 trillion infrastructure plan to build new roads and bridges and airports and tunnels and highways and railways all across our great nation.
Upgrades to infrastructure to improve our commutes, speed shipments of products, and add U.S. construction jobs by the millions. But inaction in Washington has made it all a running joke.
This is the dramatic conclusion of Donald Trump's Infrastructure Week. It's all we've been talking about this week, right? Infrastructure. You know, fixing our old bridges, then jumping off them.
The to-do list of repairs is staggering. $177 billion needed for the electrical grid, $42 billion for aging airports, and $1.1 trillion for crumbling roads and structurally deficient bridges. COVID is compounding the crisis. With fewer travelers at airports and on toll roads, fewer are paying the taxes and user fees that fund repairs.
You've got municipal and state budgets that are starting to buckle under these unprecedented demands, meaning less support is available for our parks and schools and other publicly owned infrastructure, precisely at a time when we need to be investing in it.
Subways, commuter rail, and bus lines, understrained before COVID, are now bracing for deep cuts.
It's the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with, and as you may know, I ran BWI Airport right after 9/11, and I dealt with a lot of issues there. But this is unbelievable.
In the nation's capital, rail ridership is down 90%, bus passengers down 60%. Paul Wiedefeld oversees the country's second busiest transit system behind New York City.
I mean, you look at New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Boston, they're all in the same place. They're getting to that same point we are, which is, we're facing huge financial challenges, and until this thing's really under control, people aren't coming back to use our system.
New York's MTA faces an $8 billion deficit through 2024. In Chicago, it's $500 million, while in Boston, $600 million. Officials have warned of more layoffs, eliminating service, closing stations, and cutting the frequency of trains and buses. Some much-needed system upgrades are put on hold or canceled.
We have a tremendous backlog when it comes to transit.
That backlog could threaten the COVID recovery as businesses rely on public transit to bring back workers, shoppers, and tourists.
How long do you think this is going to last?
It's definitely months. I mean, we're definitely months. Let's see how the vaccine all plays out, both in terms of its acceptance and again, its reliability.
On the roads, there may be less rush hour gridlock, but with fewer filling up at the pump and paying gas taxes, the Highway Trust Fund is taking a hit. More than 56,000 American bridges, roughly 1 in 10, are in urgent need of major repairs or replacement.
We have pressed our luck, I believe, and I am concerned. I'm very concerned about it could be too late. There may be a bridge collapse on the horizon.
Kimberly Brown is a survivor of America's crumbling infrastructure. 13 years ago, she was driving to a soccer game in Minneapolis when Interstate 35W over the Mississippi River suddenly collapsed.
This is a bridge that seems so strong and so powerful, and it's been able to just absolutely devour itself, if you will.
I was standing on the bridge after falling with the bridge and thinking I was surely going to die. And we had climbed out of the car and we were standing there waiting on the bridge, absolutely in shock, thinking this cannot possibly be real. And so I just raised my arm and just took a picture.
And I know that there are the emotional and psychological wounds.
My injuries were all invisible. My injuries were an eerie metaphor to the damages that were happening under this bridge. And the damages I discovered were happening across different infrastructure, and that is happening all across our country.
Brown set out to investigate on her own, writing a book about her findings and calling on leaders in both parties to see the human costs of infrastructure neglect.
Once we embrace the reality of why it truly fell, then we need to organize and bind together, regardless of party. Bridges don't fall and ask us what party we are. We all fell. 145 people were hurt. It did not matter what their voter registration card said.
Congress, in its massive year-end stimulus bill, approved $14 billion in relief for public transit, which major cities say will prevent deeper service cuts and layoffs for now.
It's a down payment, an important down payment on what's going to have to be done beginning at the end of January into February.
President-elect Joe Biden says a long-elusive bipartisan infrastructure deal is a top priority, tapping former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg as transportation secretary to help lead the charge.
Americans expect us to see to it that the idea of an infrastructure week is associated with results and never again a media punchline.
High expectations met with cautious optimism.
One of the issues we get bogged down by each time is how do you fund it? And the question we have to ask ourselves is how do you not fund it? And what does it cost when you don't fund it?
Do you think that this transition and this new administration will be different than the last two?
Infrastructure to me is jobs. That's what it really means. I think the president-elect has shown that, he's an infrastructure guy. He wants to do that. And particularly given what we've been through with the COVID, we need to start that economy up. And the quickest way to do that is start investing in infrastructure.
A fresh call to upgrade America and supercharge our economic recovery in the process. For ABC News Live, I'm Devin Dwyer in Washington.
And our thanks to Devin.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.